This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. Here's VOCM Open Line host Paddy Daly.
Well, all right, and good morning to you. Thank you very much for tuning into the program. It's Thursday, June the 5th. This is Open Line. I'm your host, Paddy Daly. David Williams. He's produced the program. You'll be speaking with David when you pick up the phone to give us a shout to get in the queue and get on the air. If you're in the St. John's metro region, the number to dial is 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, which is 86-26. So that's one game win 13 in the Stanley Cup playoffs for the Edmonton Oilers. Comeback victory. They beat the Florida Panthers in overtime. Just 30 seconds left on the clock. It was one of those delay a game penalties that brought the Oilers the power play. But anyway, Draisaitl from McDavid. The Oilers up 1-0. And now the home schedule for the Newfoundland Regiment is out. They'll play their inaugural home opener on September 18th at Mary Brown Centre. Full schedule available. Apparently the ticket sales are going really well too, so good for them. Go get them. Good luck. All right, just a quick baseball note. So nice win for the Jays last night, but everyone likes to see someone hit a home run. At least I do. So it was on this date that Mickey Mantle hit a 550-foot shot off Chicago's Billy Price, which got me thinking. I've seen this before, but, you know, when you see someone hit a 450-foot home run, it's massive. So when we're talking about Mantle 550, and then apparently the longest verifiable home run in Major League history was hit by Babe Ruth, of course. Measured 575 feet, hit it at Tiger Stadium 1921. If you Google up the longest home run ever in pro baseball, it's a minor leaguer, this guy named Joey Meyer. He spent some time playing with the Milwaukee Brewers in the bigs, but he was a real power threat in the minors. So apparently one time he hit one 582 feet, 1987, playing for AAA Denver Zephyrs, or Zephyrs anyway. How interesting was that? All right, you hear me giving lots of sports shout-outs to local athletes, but today we're going to give the shout-outs to those who represented the province admirably at the 2025 Skills Canada National Competition. All right, so 500 competitors from across the country compete in the only national multi-trade and technology competition for students and apprentices. Okay, we did great. 7 medals. The headline, Skills Canada Newfoundland and Labrador, is also thrilled to announce that Logan Bowers, gold medal winner in the cloud computing, has been selected as the official cloud computing competitor for Team Canada, representing the country at the World Skills Competition in Shanghai in 2026. Other winners, bronze, Jesse Neary, Architectural Design and Technology, silver, Milton John Cinching, IT Office Software. Gold medals go to Devin Owens in refrigeration and air conditioning, another gold medal to Kendra Seymour in hairstyling, lovely. Another one to Emmanuel Nekawachu, apologies for butchering that pronunciation, in photography, and of course the aforementioned Logan Bowers, and Zachary Kane, outdoor power and recreation. Bravo, congratulations to all hands. All right. Yet another infuriating story. Now, we only get headlines garnered with speeding if the speeds are extraordinary. We know that people are speeding around all the time, everywhere. But this guy pulled over doing 169 kilometers an hour. It's just infuriating. We have to share the roadway with people like that. So, of course, you get a ticket, you get your vehicle impounded. But what's it going to take? I mean, if you're going 130, you're flying on the highway. 169, there is no way to avoid anything that pops up in front of you. And, of course, to lose control of a pickup truck going 169 kilometers an hour is no problem. So those stories just drive me. But anyway, there you go. All right, we know that we had a water bomber damage back in 2018. And for some reason, you know, we looked at trying to get the insurance to cover it, but the deductible was too high. Then they thought about buying a new one, and they didn't pull the trigger. And here we are now repairing the 5th water bomber. Where it's going to be stationed remains to be seen. But if you look across the country and the numbers of wildfires that are burning out of control, of course, the number one go-to tool is a water bomber. So we've got the fleet across the country made up of what they call amphibious scoopers, the CL415 and the older CL215. The 415 hasn't been manufactured for a decade. Bombardier sold the rights to the model back in 2016 to de Havilland, Canada. So they started building a factory near Calgary in 2022 to produce this newer model. The problem is, for the provinces that are struggling to get a new water bomber, including out of Manitoba, they put down an $80 million deposit to buy 3 water bombers. The backlog is extraordinary. They're not going to have those water bombers that they've already put the down payment for into the 2031, 2032 time frame. So the conversation, I think, is interesting. You know, you look across the country, and when provinces are in need, then provinces share resources, whether it be boots on the ground and, yes, water bombers. We've done it several times, and people have come to our aid as well. So I think the next step of the conversation, and I don't know what you think of this, is because they're a shared resource, as common as it is, is it time to nationalize the water bomber fleet? You know, to put them where they're needed and to have somebody that's in charge of it. Now, I don't think there's the concept of provinces being left behind because the big provinces will hog the resources, because we share them willfully and freely and justifiably so. So apparently there's a huge wait time. I don't like isolationist policies because I think they don't make any sense. But given the fact that it's de Havilland, Canada, they've got something like 22 orders coming from the European Union, others coming from Asia. Is there an opportunity for some sort of priority to be given to Canadian provinces to get the new water bombers? Because 22 orders from the EU, of course we want to satisfy it. It creates tons of jobs and tax base expansion. But is it something to consider in some form? Even though I'm not in favor of protectionism. But anyway, there you go. What do you think? All right. I'm going to keep throwing this out there because I think we should all have a voice on it, and that's the recommendation and the concept of creating civilian oversight for the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary. The time has come. I think it's a huge problem for all of us, regardless of what you personally think about law enforcement. If we had an independent body to help guiding policing priorities, to help for lodging complaints in an independent fashion, taken out of the hands of law enforcement, in this case the RNC, I think it's good for us. I think it's good for the RNC. The government has sort of said that they agree that it's time to do exactly that. We're one of the few provinces in the country without civilian oversight for a provincial police force. So just a very quick mention of it. We can do it. All right, so the Bank of Canada holds steady at 2.75%. There's lots of concerns regarding the economy, and there's plenty of domestic policies that have been less than helpful, and we've created some of our own problems, no doubt about it. But of course, the Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem also talks about the uncertainty in the economy. And that includes, unfortunately, our unpredictable trade relationship with our largest trading partner, our closest ally, the United States. So here we are in a world now where tariffs on steel and aluminum are now 50%, which pretty much makes the Americans not a market for Canadian steel and aluminum. That's a problem. Regardless of what you think of politics, regardless of who you're a fan of, it's unjustified, and the Prime Minister says it's illegal. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. So what do we do here? You know, uncertainty is not just hitting that industry. We've been exempt from a lot of tariffs, and thankfully so. But certainty really rules the roost. We talk about certainty, regulatory certainty and otherwise, in the natural resources industry. I would suggest it extends to every industry. You know, investment will cool. So whether or not you think things like emissions cap on the oil and gas sector is an investment killer or chiller, so is this uncertainty. Now, even with this doubling of the tariffs on steel and aluminum, apparently we're not going to reciprocate. There will not be that fight back via tariffs. Not as of yet, anyway. But I think there's a renewed conversation about a surcharge on electricity flowing to the United States and a surcharge on what is our trump card, and that's potash going to the United States. But anyway, Bank of Canada holding the rate where it is. I'm going to put this back out there because we all have to eat no matter who you voted for. And whether or not inflation and what the contributing factors are, which are many, the disconnect between general inflation and food inflation is a real big deal. So I mentioned in the past that there was this political scientist named Sarah Martin. She describes the food chain as more like an hourglass rather than a straight line. She's 100% right. She calls the group the feeders, or the food producers, and the eaters, or the consumers, are on the bottom. The feeders are on the top. In the middle, the hourglass pinched, as you can picture in your mind's eye, that's the corporations. They have huge control. So when people look at things like supply chains that have been reinvigorated and the carbon tax for consumers has gone by the wayside, yet to be fully introduced via legislation, but has been reduced to zero, these corporations are very defensive against any economic shock. So while prices were quick to hike, Come back to earth? Not so much. So if you look at inflation at around 1.7%, food inflation is 3.8%. So again, it doesn't matter who you voted for, and I don't think it matters who holds the seat of government, as long as the corporations have such a tight grip on that part of the economy, we're the ones paying the price. So you go to the grocery store like I go to the grocery store, and it is becoming pretty difficult to shop. I mean, look at what it means for beef and pork. It's 16% year over year increase in beef and pork. Now, there's some complications there. Beef and pork will be raised in Canada, sent to the United States for subsidized labor and for slaughter, and then brought back over the border, and we all know the implications of the tariffs and or the big corporations who are holding tight. So put that back out there in addition to the Bank of Canada commentary. If you're inclined to talk about it, let's do it. All right, I'll put this one back out there too, because I think this is an absolutely huge big deal. If government is going to be so keen to digitize and become the keeper of all our private and personal information, we have to make sure they're doing everything humanly possible on a daily basis to protect us, and any vulnerabilities need to be addressed. It'll soon be time to have the new Privacy Commissioner on the programme to talk about exactly this. Kerry Hatfield has given the school board, or I guess the NL Department of Education, the time since the December 2018 hack of the Power School, which compromised the information of hundreds of thousands of people in this province, 271,000 students and 14,400 teachers. All right, the data that's stolen goes all the way back to 1995. 75% of those who had their information compromised are no longer in the system. Credit monitoring has provided for the course of 2 years, so it'd be interesting to have Ms. Hatfield on, because the investigation is one. She's looking at whether or not they've done anything to protect where the vulnerabilities were and to enhance security to protect their information, and rightfully so. I mean, just think about it. If you're a teacher, you might be retired for the past 10 years, but someone probably has your social insurance number, which is a good step forward in the opportunity to steal your identity. So all those privacy concerns and the digitization of our personal information and government's responsibility, big deal. Of course, it's a big deal. All right, so we've heard about the natural gas assessment and some pretty big numbers to consider. You know, some best guesstimates, 9.5 trillion cubic feet, and that's just in the Jeanne d'Arc Basin. I was wondering how that would sit and kind of reaction we would get from those in the industry. And ExxonMobil spoke to exactly that at the Energy NL conference. One thing that kind of jumps off the pages, they're, of course, encouraged to know, but not making any real move on it at this moment in time. We know natural gas is in demand right around the world, but it was sort of an underwhelming reaction from ExxonMobil, one of the biggest players in our offshore. And gas is a big part of their portfolio, most of which to power their own infrastructure. But, you know, until we get a royalty regime in place, and they didn't seem to be all that enthused necessarily. I shouldn't be putting words and, you know, reading body language, but no big, oh my God, yes, we are in a great place. And then just another couple of pieces from the Energy NL conference. So the hype surrounding green hydrogen has really waned. Of course it has. But according to some representatives of the 6 players that are in the queue here in this province, they say that the lack of interest or hype at this moment in time is a good thing. Now, maybe that's just, you know, trying to be optimistic regarding their own operations, but it will weed out the players from the just tire kickers. So I don't really quite understand the bullish nature of some of the comments, given the fact that there's been very little progress and downsizing of operations that have been proposed. I'm talking about data centers and all the rest of it, but that's where they are. All right, let's move into the water. Northern Cod. All right, so new Fisheries Minister, who we're going to hope to speak with in the near future, of course, St. John's Member of Parliament, Joanne Thompson. So the FFAW has put forward their recommendations for the 2025 Northern Cod Management Plan. They talk about what they call a robust catch rate last year and a 15% increase in the spawning stock biomass. They're asking for the minister to increase the total allowable catch to 35,000 tonne. That's just about double the current TAC, which is 18,000 tonne. They go on to say and remind comments made by the prime ministers in the past, including Prime Minister Trudeau. The first 115,000 tonne of any management plan should be allocated to the inshore fishery. That, of course, is not being heard by the federal government, given the fact we moved from stewardship to commercial, which, of course, NAFO implications, foreign fleets, in the offshore draggers, all the rest of it. All right. They're going on to say that they'd like to see any increase in the cod quota go to the area 3K, which is just north of Cape Friels, while maintaining the 2J stake. They're also talking about to see a timely decision on a management plan so coastal communities can properly prepare. Not sitting very well with the harvesters in 2J. That's off the Labrador coast, southeast and east coast of Labrador. They go on to say that the 2J fleet has argued for years at annual Groundfish Advisory Committee meetings and through available consultation processes that it should receive priority and specific allocation in northern cod. In summary, the 2J fleet receives 20% of the inshore allocation in northern cod management framework and thus must continue in perpetuity. Finally, we can plan and grow our fishery and fleet and support our plants and communities where there is no other opportunity. Here's the key sentence. If the remaining 80% of the inshore allocation is insufficient for the FFAW's purposes, then there's a different issue than fairness at play. We're going to try to get an opportunity to speak with Dwight Russell, who's speaking for the harvesters represented in the 2J fleet, but Northern Cod always lot to it. And yes, for the vast majority of people who are not directly involved in the wild fishery, it's about the recreational food fishery. All right, a couple of quick ones before we get to you. All right. People know the stories about the toxic drug supply on the streets and the rate of overdose deaths. The controversy surrounding harm reduction is very clear. And now in the city of St. John's, in the downtown, it looks like it's on the corner of Duckworth and Prescott, a pop-up safe injection site, a harm reduction site. All right. The questions I'm fielding are these. Number one, does it work? Should we do it? It's not enabling anybody because they're not giving you any drugs. They're just giving you safe supply or safe needles and what have you, and then to monitor or if and when you overdose with naloxone kits close by, nurses who are trained, volunteers who are trained. So for me, we're not enabling anything. People are going to use these drugs, and if they use them in the shadows, maybe that results in an overdose death. But then it's location. That's the real prime concern offered by many in my email inbox. We talk about the downtown core being one of the feature offerings for tourists, cruise ship visitors and others. Then the reaction might be, in some corners, is you have to meet people where they are. The downtown core is not alone in being riddled with drug addicts, but there is plenty down there. If you've ever walked the streets in the downtown area, you'll see it. So could it be as well served if it was, say, at Ricketts Road or somewhere closer to St. Clair's, which is also in that collective pocket? But that is going to be a controversial issue. I know it is, because my email inbox has already told me. Now, you can apply for exemptions with Health Canada for these safe consumption sites, but this group has not done it at this moment in time. So it'd be nice to speak with the representatives of the Overdose Awareness and Response St. John's team, who are doing exactly this, about the choice of location and about the lack of approval from Health Canada to do what they're doing. Not that I think it's a bad thing. I just think there's a couple of questions that people would like to hear reaction to. All right, how are we doing on the phone, Dave? I had a lot of stuff I wanted to get to, but we are getting more and more information about things like water quality. We spoke with a concerned citizen in New West Valley talking about the dangerously high levels of THMs and HAAs, and we can break down what they are. Then you talk about, there was a meeting last night in Torbay for the residents who were affected by the forever chemicals that came from fire services at the airport and seeped into the water wells, and of course they're poisoned and have been for quite a long time. If anybody was at that meeting last night, would like to share what you heard, please do that here on the program today. And interestingly, today is World Environment Day. The first one was back in 1974. Different themes each year, but you know, one of the key issues regarding protection of the environment is to protect the water supply. And we've got some real problems in this province. A couple of quickies. You just look at the world of popular music these days. Between the lyrics, and I'm not a Pollyanna, nothing really offends me, between the lyrics and the scantily clad performers, we've just kind of grown numb to it. Well, maybe some of you haven't, but just think back to how innocent the world was regarding music. It was on this date in 1956 where the King, Elvis Presley, debuted Hound Dog on the Milton Berle Show. And the reaction wasn't about the tune. And it wasn't about the music. It was about the suggestive shaking of his hips. That's what dominated. Imagine the fully dressed in a suit of clothes, a few shakes of the hip, and that was enough to turn the world on its head. And on this date, while we all bemoan the loss of the railway here, on this date, 1883, was the inaugural run from Paris en route to Istanbul of the Orient Express. And the luxurious nature of. What was the menu on that first run here? See if I can find that quick. The first menu to debut on the train was oysters, soup with Italian pasta, turbot with green sauce, chicken à la chasseur, filet of beef with chateau potatoes, char froid with game animals, lettuce, chocolate pudding. Not bad. We're on Twitter. We're VOCM Open Line. Follow us there. Email address is openline@vocm.com. There was a lot I wanted to get to, but of course, I don't set the stage. That is entirely up to you. When we come back, what's on your mind? Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's begin on the top of the board, line number 1. Good morning, Nicole Boland. You're on the air.
Hey, Patty. How's it going?
Really well this morning. How about you?
Good, good. I wanted to touch base about the article that came out, I think it was yesterday, social workers leaving the profession early due to being overworked, especially in rural areas.
Yep, let's go.
Yeah, so I have a lot of thoughts about this. I think one of the big things is I'm a social worker, and I don't know one social worker who doesn't have this conversation themselves of being in this profession, am I just burning through myself, and should I go for something less demanding? But it's interesting because when we're talking about being overworked, and like this article mentions 90 to 100 caseloads, people on your caseload, and that's unmanageable for anyone. But what it comes down to is when we're talking about being overworked, I think this article kind of missed a lot of the nuance. So, for example, if I have 10 people in my office and I see them that day and I need to connect those people with housing or shelter, if I can't do that, those people are going to be outside that night. And in the winter, it's devastating. And I think what it comes down to, we're talking about being overworked, but fundamentally, we don't have the resources we need to do our jobs. We don't have the resources to connect people to. And then one of the solutions in this article was, well, we can get social workers counseling. And I don't need counseling. I need social supports. I need housing. I need change on a systemic level. And I just kind of think this article missed that side of it.
Fair enough. And I'll just toss this in there. I'm not the social worker, you are, so you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think sometimes when we simply talk about the number of files on my desk, 90 or 100, that does not represent the fact that those files, maybe every single one of them, is a very traumatic issue. So it's one thing for me to have 90 to 100 files of some accounting measures to be dealt with on my desk, but that's not the human nature of strife and struggle and homelessness and addiction. And I think that really makes it a much different conversation, because I can do 100 things today, but it might not impact anyone's actual day-to-day life and health and well-being.
And yeah, with those 90 to 100 cases, it's never just one person, right? Because we work with families, individuals, their friends, their support networks. So say one case, you could actually have a network of 5 to 10 people just associated with that one person.
Sure.
And like I said, I feel like Jim always says, a rising tide lifts all boats. And I think if we want to tackle social worker burnout, we need to look at the social elements that are affecting our province, affecting our social workers, and then the clients that we work with.
Yeah. So, when you talk about social work, in addition to that, sometimes I think people hear the word social worker and think, well, that's working in child, youth, family services. And yes, absolutely, social workers work on that file. But it's throughout the entirety of the healthcare delivery system, mental health, addictions, criminal justice, and the aforementioned Department of Child, Youth, and Family Services. So it's a really broad profession, which I think sometimes gets lost in the shuffle too, to really appreciate, how deep the social workers are intertwined with life.
Yeah. Like I'm doing my master's degree now. I've never worked in child protection. I've worked at community organizations and really like on the ground working with people directly in communities that need extra support, extra resources. But child protection isn't all social workers do. We're very connected across the board. But I am glad you brought up child protection though, because there is another thing, and this is kind of a parallel that's been eating me lately. When the ministry shifted back a few weeks ago, the Department of CSSD was diminished. So that used to be children, seniors, and social development. And now we have families and affordability. But I've talked to social workers, and I'm hearing a lot of conversations about, well, where are children in care, children in protection in this ministry? Because it feels like they're no longer represented.
Yeah. Something else that pops in my mind repeatedly, because for me, and I could be wrong, one of the most traumatic places to work as a social worker is in child protection services, I would think anyway. So what becomes a complicating factor there is that because it's such a difficult file and so much work to be done, paperwork and otherwise, that in the world of seniority and the opportunity to move on as you become more and more a veteran of social work, then all of a sudden what we find is that we've got the newest, the greenest, the freshest out of the box social workers taking on that hugely complicated and traumatic file, which I think is also a problem. Or do you think I'm wrong, Nicole? Or
I think you're right, but I do think if social workers had the resources to do their jobs, we wouldn't have people leaving at the rates we are. And we would see social workers being able to kind of grow in these roles and not feel overwhelmed and burnt out. Because, like, any person, I mean, I know what social workers were saying, set your boundaries, work-life balance, but we're not miracle workers. We're not magicians. And at the end of the day, if you know that something needs to be done on a case and you just cannot access this service or you can't get this resource, you're going home and you're thinking about that. And you're brainstorming, like, how can I get this person housing, or how can I make this work for them when the system is failing me and it's failing them?
Yeah. So, again, I guess this is where I probably don't know the ins and the outs, but you talk about even something as important as supports comes in the form of housing. I think that's an across-the-board issue. So how do we directly link your need as a social worker for the provision of housing to the general concept of housing? Because they're kind of two different things. Affordable housing is not a one-size-fits-all, and neither is a wraparound support a one-size-fits-all. And some people out there, when we talk about affordable housing or housing in general, they don't need anything else but a roof over their head. So how do we tailor-make housing-related issues to the needs of social workers and their clients?
Yeah, I think the big thing is keeping public money at the public level. So take emergency shelter, for example. There was an ATIP put in for the amount that the province has been spending. So in 2019, we spent $4 million. 2023 to 2024, it's $9 million. And then 24 to 25, it's $13 million. Now, the thing with these shelter accommodations is a lot of these are owned by private landlords who are making hundreds of thousands of dollars running these shelters, and the conditions in them aren't always great. But then on the other side of the coin, you have community organizations who are crying out for funding, and they have these brilliant, beautiful ideas for housing that they can't get funded for. And we're seeing this across the board with a lot of community organizations. And just one, for example, Planned Parenthood, their core funding is $60,000. And that's for their 4 staff people, all the work they do, all the community work they do. And I know it's not specifically housing related, but there has been conversations of how do you keep 2S LGBTQ plus folks safe in shelters and in housing. And I know that there has been kind of brainstorming. If they had the money, they would be trying to break into that space, but they can't even get funds for like their day-to-day operations.
Yeah. And even just the way we handle emergency shelters in this province is just backwards thinking to me. You know, we do it unlike other places which have better success in dealing with homelessness. We just cannot for the life of ourselves get out of our own way. Just look at how it works elsewhere and maybe try to mimic it a little better than what we're doing, because what we currently do does not work. Regardless of the efforts and the professionalism of people like yourself working in it and others who are working in that arena, what we're doing, the policy behind it, is not working.
Yep, no, 100%. And even like those numbers I just gave you, so we spent $13 million on emergency shelter last year. As far as I know, that doesn't include supportive living. So say the new hotel airport project, as far as I know, that's classified as supportive living and isn't reflected in that $13 million for emergency shelter.
Right.
So the money that we're spending, like I said, it's leaving the community. It's not community investment. If you give the Women's Center, the ACNL, any of these community organizations a fraction of what we're giving to public or private landlords, the things they could do, I think, would blow everyone's mind.
No doubt. Anything else you'd like to add to it while we have you this morning, Nicole?
No, that's everything for me. Oh, one other thing, though. The disability tax credit, I've been doing a lot of work around it, and I just want to let people know that if you're thinking about applying for the disability tax credit, this is a great time to do it, because starting next month, there's a new Newfoundland disability benefit coming out. And if you get the disability tax credit, it's all relatively automatic, and it could be up to $400 a month. So I know the province is doing some sessions on these. The sessions that the province is doing are during the work week and during the work day. we're working on our own sessions. We're hoping to do them some evenings and some weekends. So I got an office number here. I'm going to give it to you. It's 729
Sure.
2630 2638.
Okay.
Just because this new funding that's coming out next month, it could be life-changing for people if we can get past the barrier of connecting them with the disability tax credit.
I appreciate your time, and I try to say this all the time, is the disability tax credit is where it all starts. Access to any other monies requires actually having approval for the tax credit. And some people listening might not think that they actually are eligible for, but that's a conversation to have with your doctor. If you have pervasive and prolonged experiences throughout a wide healthcare gamut, you may indeed qualify. So if you think that...
mental health
absolutely.
Mental health issues are qualify as well. So ADHD, anxiety, depression, all of those things, if they're impacting your daily life, those are elements that you could apply on. And a lot of people don't know that side of it either.
Yeah, and there's different healthcare professionals can indeed be involved in the approval depending on your ailment. So I'm glad you mentioned that this morning, Nicole, because remarkably, between Tom Badcock and things that I've said and others have said on the show, more and more people have applied and have been successful, which allows you to get the monthly allowance. It creates that disabled retirement fund contribution that is something out there that people maybe don't know about. So there's a lot to what you just added, and I'm glad you did.
No, exactly. And like I said, that's my number. If anyone calls and is looking for it, pass it out. I would love to chat with anyone.
I was scrambling for my pen. 729, please, one more time.
729-2638.
2638. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
Same to you. Bye-bye. All right. Will I get the break in before we go to the break, or what do you want me to do? Yeah, let's do that. Let's go to line number 3. Greg, you're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Daly. How are you today?
Not too bad at all. How about you?
I'm very frustrated and I'm upset, to be honest with you. As my first time caller, I might sound a little bit nervous, but I just like to put over the radio, over your airways, that last night, approximately 5:45, I parked here on Ricketts Road, myself, my wife here in a Silverado pickup. And we visited our mother, my wife, my wife, we visited her mother at St. Clair's there. She's a patient there. And from 5:45 to 8:20, when I come back out, my truck was broken into here on Ricketts Road. My truck was the only one here on Ricketts Road here at the time. And they took some very important stuff out of my truck. It's reported to the police. And they're looking into different things. And I was just wondering if I can put it over your airways, if there's somebody with video surveillance in the area or somebody that's drove by with cameras or saw something, if I can possibly leave my name, and if someone can get back to me, it's greatly appreciated, or they can contact the RNC with it, and they can stay anonymous. But it's very frustrating, Patty, to visit your loved ones at any place and then come back and see what this, I'll be polite, see what this person had done to my vehicle inside, and what it took, the dangerous weapons as in my vehicle that I had, that was in possession of putting them away, because I only received them the past couple of days, and it's not firearms, it's just knives and what they took. And it's frustrating that those people would take that and funds that I had here in my truck. I've had some problems with my vehicle, and it's very frustrating. And now today, like my daughter is in at the Health Science, breast cancer operation today, and just dealing with this stuff, sir, I'm frustrated.
I totally get it. Completely understand. It's infuriating, and even if you lock the place down watertight, someone will find a way to still steal what you're trying to protect. So you mentioned knives, and we don't have to dig into too much further if you don't like, but if anyone in the area saw something, especially if you have some like doorbell camera footage or CCTV or whatever the case may be, Greg would like to see it, and you can also report it. I would suggest, if you want to remain anonymous, to call Crime Stoppers, because that's probably the best home for that type of report.
Yes, sir, I certainly agree with you. Yes, Mr. Daly, I do so.
Yeah, so would you like to leave your number on the air, or just leave it with Dave?
I would love to leave my number on the air.
Fire away.
At 743 8084.
8084. Listen, good luck. Let me know what happens.
Yes, sir, I will so. And like I say, it's very frustrating, and like the stuff, even in my vehicle, they had to throw it on the road and everything. And my vehicle, like, we locked the vehicle, but for some reason, we don't know how they got in. Unless they have one of those little pumps to pry the door open and work their way around locks. But, you know, it's a fairly new vehicle, and they got to be used to what they're doing. And I also got to tell you this one. They also took a little bag off as a special nut that you put over your tires to take the tires off, and that was in a Hickman Motors bag. So they even took that with some other nuts that was in the bag to keep your tire on, to I guess to rob someone else's tires, because it's a special device and it holds that special one for taking off tires. So I guess somebody will probably lose a tire in a day or so on the same vehicle that I got.
Yeah, it's too bad, Greg. So if you know anything, 743-8084. Good luck with it. Let me know how you make out.
Well, sir, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to present this over the airways, and I listen to you all the time, and you have a great day too, sir.
Same to you. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, all the best.
All right,
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, let's get a break. When we come back, Water Bombers. Welcome back to the show. Let's go. Line number 2. Dave, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty.
Morning to you.
It's an absolutely beautiful one here today. I think it's the same thing on the East Coast.
It is. Yesterday it was gorgeous. The weekend was nice. And once again, blue sky, nice temperatures here today. Love it.
Yeah, beautiful weather. Really early weather for the dry season. And the topic that you spoke to in your preamble that I got no other choice but to agree with you. There needs to be something done for our water bomber service, and not just here. This is a national thing, and I know a fair bit about the way that these programs are run, because my dearly departed friend was a water bomber pilot, as well as his son is, and they also own an airline. That would be Pat White, Evis Air, and of course the new CEO of Evis Air, Ian White, who is a provincial water bomber pilot, and at one time I think he's like the chief pilot for the province. They've been involved with the air initiatives of firefighting for years and years. And I've heard the banter and the talk and the concerns about what exactly water bombing means and how important it is. Of course, we all would agree that, I mean, it's the rapid response that you get from the air service, of course, and they can cover a huge area. And of course, then you add the enhanced safety to the people that are on the ground trying to fight these fights. Well, part of the air bomber initiative also should include an appropriate, what they call bird dog service, which they help to direct by the intensity and the direction of the fire where these water bombers should be dropping water and whatnot during the operation of the fire when they're fighting it. And it's kind of a multifaceted approach. And once again, my buddy Pat White was a brilliant man. You're familiar with Pat, I know, and
yep.
Many are. But that lives on, because his young fellow is a chip off the old block, and they've come up with a program that should really, really be supported and driven by our province to become part of a national program. That even when they're not busy here, if there's a fire elsewhere, they go to support it. There's always a few left home to the immediately need of our province should a fire start here while they're away. But it's a plan of brilliance. I've seen it. I haven't really spoken to Ian to say if it's okay to talk about a lot of it, but I'll give you some of the general specifics of the program, which it also involves integrating the repair of this damaged water bomber that we have here, because that's not just an easy thing to do. It's got to be done appropriately, and they got to repair this one now, because water bomber fleets nationwide have been aging, and the demand on new ones, and with the U.S. now talking of a whole fleet of new ones, I think if you put it in order now, you're probably talking 6 to 8 years before you can get an aircraft.
Well, Manitoba put down $80 million on 3 water bombers. They're not going to get it till the 2031-32 fire seasons.
Jeepers. That's not great. Terrible, actually. The way that things are going now, I mean, it seems like our wildfire season is starting earlier. I have a buddy who's with the provincial government's firefighter service, and he's been there a long time. And he tells me that, not only are wildfires starting earlier, I mean, now they're seeing wildfires that are much more intense than what they're used to seeing. I guess that's part of global warming, or whatever, you want to accredit all of that to. But we should be a leader in this province for something. I mean, many things, but I think right now, based upon the approach and the unsolicited offer that basically Eva Sarah has made to our government, to pick that up and run with it, which would give us an increased capacity for these air response vessels of hope, which are air bombers. I mean, they represent, for most parts, in some pretty intense fires and in regions that are hard to get to. The terrain is difficult. It's remote. That's our very first thing that has to happen before these things get out of hand, like what happened in Churchill Falls like last week. We really should be trying to become, I think, a national leader in this space, because I've seen the plan. It involves everything from the ground crew that would be looking after these planes to a crew of ground crew fighters, the firefighters that they would be placed where these air bombers and water bombers and stuff would be operating, and of course their ability then to be remote, go help Nova Scotia, go help PEI or somewhere else that was in trouble that needed it.
Well, that's why I think there's a conversation to be had based on historical context about nationalizing the water bomber fleet. Because look, if we are being so quick, and understandably so, to share resources when needed, then there's something to be said for a nationalised water bomber fleet. I don't know exactly how it would work and who would be responsible, whether it be an arm of the Canadian Transportation Agency or who knows what, but it could have representatives from all the provinces that work in conjunction to ensure that where resources are needed, resources are sent. Simple as that.
Yeah, that makes absolutely perfect sense. And I would also... I would be remiss in saying, like if I would mention to the Premier right now, Mr. Hogan, we have an absolute expert in this province, one with many years of experience that knows way more than the people that are in your government. Anybody in any department that you're going to go to look to talk to for advice on water bombers, on bird dog programs, how they operate, what they should do, where they should be located, you have an absolute expert here. He runs Evis Air. He's a young, bright man, and you should really give him a call. We could be part of a national effort. We could start this national effort, and we could say that Paddy Daly is the fellow that brought it up, and Big Mouth Dave Callahan from the West Coast called and said, yes, boy, that's not a bad idea. It's a great idea.
I got to jump in and get to the break, but I've been just trying to let the White family catch their breath after the passing of their parents, but we will, in short order, invite Ian on the program to talk about whether it be this topic and or, the proposed expansion into Labrador, as Pat and I spoke about here on the program. So I'll do that, but I conscientiously tried to leave them alone for a little bit.
Yeah, and that's so respectful of you. Within 5 weeks, they've lost Pat and their mother, Florence. It was unreal to see that happen. Kind of happy for Pat. He's got Florence back with him. But we lost two great entrepreneurs. Believe me, that spirit lives on in Ian. And he's a brilliant fellow with great ideas, not from anything less than the experience of the field that he's talking about. He's been involved with it all his life.
Yeah, I'll reach out to him.
I think he's not an expert, eh?
I appreciate the time, Dave. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Paddy. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, buddy.
Yeah, let's do that. I mean, I've been thinking about it, but, that's a lot to deal with as a family. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're speaking with you. Welcome back to the show. Don't want to shortchange those in the queue of some time to talk about whatever's on their mind, so we'll save them for after the news. I always get a kick out of some emails. It's like, how come we don't do this? How come we don't say that? How come we didn't bring that up? Look, you can bring it up too, right? And this one was about how the speech from the throne got through Parliament. It's pretty fundamental, actually. So it would be the government's first non-confidence vote, but here's what happened. So it went through as an unrecorded vote and has been passed through the House of Commons. So what's required there is that if someone wants to call for recorded division, is what they refer to it as in Parliament, so every MP on the opposition benches, and I think that probably includes the government itself, but every MP is asked, in broad terms, in general terms, if they want to stand and ask for a recorded division vote. Nobody did. So it got passed as a non-recorded vote. The NDP, curiously, and they've said they're not going to re-enter a supply and confidence agreement with the Liberals, but they said, and their interim leader, Don Davies, said they would vote against the speech from the throne. And, of course, the entire opposition voted against the Liberal government's want to amend the speech from the throne, and they lost in a vote that was pretty close, 166 to 164. The amendment was going to call on the government to table an economic update before Parliament breaks for the summer. So they win that particular vote, which does not ensure we're going to get any update on the economy regarding, say, a mini budget or an economic statement or a budget proper, because it's a non-binding vote. So, yeah, that's how the speech from the throne got through. All parties and their individual members of Parliament had the opportunity to stand and say they want to vote. And then who knows what would become of the Liberal government's first non-confidence motion. But every party had a chance and nobody took it. So there's that. Also, the passing of Mark Arnault, sad obviously, at the age of 76. Fascinating human being. I never met the man. But when you just look at his professional career, and this is not about the fact that he eventually served in the Liberal government, it's not about that at all. So Mark Arnault was born on the 23rd of February 1949 in Quebec City. Studied engineering physics at the Royal Military College in Kingston, graduating in 1970. Earned a doctorate in electrical engineering from the Imperial College of Science and Technology in London in 1973. He began his military career, joined the Canadian Navy, served from 74 to 83, went on to become, of course, the first Canadian to travel to space as part of a NASA mission back in 1984. He was the vice president of the Canadian Space Agency, then became the president from 2001 to 2005. And, of course, when you hear from Newfoundland and Labradorian astronaut Chris Hadfield, he says, Mark was my role model, mentor, 30-plus year close friend, and an exemplary Canadian for us all. My heart goes out to his family. The world lost a good man. Obviously, his professional background in space travel and in the Canadian Navy and at the helm of the Canadian Space Agency, Mark Arnault, dead at 76. Let's take a break. When we come back, whatever we're talking about is entirely up to you. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 4. Good morning, John Denine. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Daly. How are you?
Very well this morning. How about you?
Not too bad, boy. Beautiful day. So, I mean, that's it. You got to get out and enjoy it.
100%.
Colin, but remind your listeners, June the 21st from 12 to 5, Nevaeh's Lemonade Stand, Nevaeh's Angels Foundation is on the go again. We're going to have bouncy castles. We're going to have bands playing there. We got a dunk tank. You should drop in. Games of chance. We got some food trucks. We got an antique and classic car show. Some face painting. We got merchandise. There's a carnival type atmosphere. So we'd love for everybody to drop in. There's no cost to come in. It's free. We're taking donations at the gate or the door, whatever you want to call it. So far this year, the foundation has passed out over $50,000. I wouldn't say passed out, helped families with over $50,000, and it's only June month yet. People don't realize until it happens to you. How many sick kids are actually out there with cancer. It's scary when you think about it. And it's all done through doctors. I mean, we just don't give out money to. It's all done through doctors and lawyers and advice of the social worker at the Janeway. So it's all, we are a registered charity, and we're trying to keep her memory alive. She's going to be gone this year now, 7 years,
I'm obviously familiar with the story and the consequential lemonade stand and the foundation. Everyone involved should be really proud of what you've accomplished. I think it's amazing.
Well, it's not only me. I mean, I'm only a grandfather type of thing, but my daughter, a lot of this Stephanie O'Brien and all the committee. I mean, I should have a bunch of names wrote down, but I mean, we have a lot of volunteers. There's a lawyers on our. I haven't even met the lawyer that deals with all this, where it's a registered charity. I haven't met the accountant yet, it's shocking to say, but I'm not in the committee because I don't want to be in any kind of conflict of interest, because you know yourself, how things go. But I mean, right now we're after raising, this is going to be 12 years basically, and we lost, I think, 2 years because of COVID, but we still had it. 1 year we had a car, and then we had a bingo another year and stuff. But I mean, I think it's over $600,000 has been raised over years, and now, we're getting... It's getting low on funds because helping families, I mean, it's amazing. Like I said, I mean, people, I mean, we know what it's like, when this happens to you. I mean, you don't care about anything else. You only care about one thing, is your child getting better and hoping for the best. And I mean, everything else just, you come to a point in your life, I mean, well, if I'm going to lose my house, lose my car, I don't really care right about now. I'm just, that's how it works,
Absolutely right. As a father, I can't help but agree 100%. So, John, any other details you want to give us about this year's lemonade stand? Just remind folks of the date and the location, those types of things.
It's going to be 21st of June at the Paradise Double Ice Complex there. I mean, the town of Paradise has been really good to us over the years. It's at the Double Ice Complex in Paradise, June the 21st on a Saturday. So I'm hoping that the weather's going to be just like it is today. And we'll have a car show there and stuff, and an annual car show for her and everything. And so, I mean, come on in, and like I said, there's no admission. And if you come in and you want to come in and you got no money and you come in, if you want a glass of lemonade or something, come and see one of us, and we'll even give it to you for free. Just show up and show us your support. I mean, if that's what it takes. I mean, the bigger the crowd, the better. I mean, that's what we're looking for, because I know she'd be proud looking down on us and saying, well, another job well done.
Absolutely right, John. As always, I appreciate your time. Keep up the great work and stay in touch.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir, and have a good day.
The same to you, John. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
So this year's annual Nevaeh's Lemonade Stand, get out and support it, please. Let's go to line number 3. Good morning, Craig Dyer. You're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How about you?
Thank you. I'm doing fabulous. I'd just like to use your program to get out a message about Mount Pearl Soccer Association. People may or may not know that we just had our field resurfaced, so we have this beautiful new turf that we're starting to play games on. And this Sunday, June 8th at 3 o'clock, our Challenge Cup, our Mount Pearl 1949 United FC team will be having their home opener. And we're playing against Paradise. The gentleman just previous talked about Paradise, so it's going to be a great game of soccer. And we're trying to muster up some energy and community pride to get people out. So we're going to have a fun-filled day of activities.
Yeah, fantastic. And you and I haven't talked about anything fun for quite a long time, so this is a nice change of pace. The Challenge Cup has really been reinvigorated. There was a stretch of time there where there wasn't as much young blood coming into the senior ranks as we've seen in the recent past. So the Cup games, I went to a couple last summer, and the level of competition and skill is absolutely wild. I mean, when when you and I were in high school and we'd go watch a bit of Challenge Cup action, there was a lot more slog ball than there is today. So there's some really great skill on display.
Oh, there's actually the league has expanded. We now have St. John's and Portugal Cove St. Philip's, and our summer games team, our boys or men's summer games team, are in the league. So it's a 9-team league, and it's some really fantastic soccer. We've got some talent in Newfoundland and Labrador. And the Mount Pearl team, which I'm a member of that board, and I'm calling on behalf of our president, Lisa Inkpen, just trying to muster up some energy. So it's our first game on the field. It's our home opener. We're bringing in our Honorary Hall of Fame members, our lifetime members, our alumni. We've invited a great number of dignitaries, and we want to invite the community to come down and experience this high level of soccer. We're going to have mini soccer games. We're going to have draws. Of course, our canteen will be open. But it's an opportunity to come down and see some of the best soccer in Newfoundland and Labrador has to offer. And we're really excited because it's an absolutely beautiful field between the city and the association. The field was opened about 3 weeks ago, and we had to delay our home opener for a couple of weeks, but this is it. This is the show. So we'd like to see the community, former soccer players, people that love soccer, come out. The admission is $5. But also we're doing a community event. In lieu of $5, you can bring a non-perishable food item for one of our local food banks, and that will be your admission that day. So lots of exciting things are happening in Mount Pearl. We got a fantastic Mount Pearl 1949 United team, and we're very competitive this year. And Paradise is a good little team too, so it should be a great game of soccer.
Yeah, and hopefully it's a great season. Did you say that the Canada Summer Games team is in the Challenge Cup round?
Every couple of years, the Summer Games team gets an opportunity. I think they play one friendly each or one game each. So they've had 2 games already, and they've got 1 win, 1 loss. And they're a very competitive team, too. Hopefully we'll get some good results out of them this summer.
Yeah, I don't want to go too far down that particular rabbit hole, but I've got some concerns and worries about how we've prepped for the Summer Games, including in soccer, to be honest. I don't know if we've got our very best soccer players on that team for a variety of reasons. Any thoughts on that? Would you like to comment on that?
I choose not to because I'm not at that level. That's the Newfoundland Labrador Soccer Association, but I know a lot of the kids on it, and they are fantastic quality players in their age group, and hopefully they represent us very well.
Yeah, I don't want to downplay the members of the team or downgrade them in any way. I just think some of the rules we put in place in a variety of sports we've kind of overplayed our hand a little bit. Asking young people to commit to one sport as a year-round commitment versus what some of the best athletes in the world will say is, play a variety of things. That's the best way to improve as an athlete, regardless if we're talking about our foot skills, eye-hand coordination, the risk of repetitive injury, that type of stuff. So I'll do all the commenting on that front. But anyway, we'll leave that for another day.
No, I can comment on that simply because I've been a part of the Mount Pearl board for 20 years, and our philosophy is multi-sport athletes, right? The commitment that these boys and ladies are given, boys and girls are given, is a commitment to be the best team possible. Now, I don't know the rules and regulations towards that team, but I can tell you the philosophy for Mount Pearl Soccer is more sports the better because you develop better. Right? You actually develop better skills in basketball, hockey, badminton, all comes around and makes better soccer players.
It really, truly does. And I know, like even for instance in ice hockey, which is one of my sports in my background, the advent of year-round hockey is like never before. It really is. It's super popular. And hey, if parents want to have their kids in hockey year-round, fair enough, it's their kid, their money. But I think there's a body of evidence out there that really does prove that to blossom as an athlete, getting a baseball in your hand or a tennis racket or a badminton racket, a soccer ball on your foot, a squash ball at the end of your racket, a variety of things just makes for a better, well-rounded athlete. And the last one is that repetitive injury thing. People just need to do just 15 seconds worth of Googling to find out that playing one sport and nothing but one for the entirety of your youth really does lead to some pretty negative outcomes health-wise. But anyway, I don't want to be preaching at folks because it's not my child and it's not my money, so people do as they see fit. Craig, appreciate the time. Have a great summer at the pitch.
Just a friendly reminder, Sunday, 3 o'clock, it's at Team Gushu Complex. Brand new field, lots of fun activities. Come out and support your teams. And I'm talking to Paradise too. Well, let's have a great day.
Absolutely, Craig. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for your time, Patty.
Pleasure. Bye-bye. All right, I mentioned, happier things to talk about. Craig Dyer, for years, was the spokesperson here for Cup W. And, of course, there's a lot going on in the Canada Post world. And I guess we'll understand now in the very near future about what some job action might look like. Canada Post, the corporation, has said, you have our final deal. The unionised workers, representing some 55,000 postal workers across the country, asked for it to be sent to binding arbitration. Canada Post said no, and here we are. Let's take a break. When we come back, Mike wants to talk about the fact there should be an independent agency that monitors government-tendered work. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 1. Mike, you're on the air. Mike, line number 1. Yes, go ahead. You're on the air.
Good morning. Patty, how many times have I called you with near misses of the ferries on the islands? I think there's numerous. But anyway, the veteran blacked out going across. Another 5 minutes and she was over in the beach. As it happened, she blacked out and she was out far enough that she could drift in that no damage was done. Now, this is twice now in the last couple of weeks that we've had an incident with the ferries, with this new systems and that stuff that they got onto it. It's totally ridiculous how they took out all working equipment. They took it all out, and from what I can gather, the contractor got it all sold, all the used parts. Plus, they got hundreds of thousands of dollars of spare parts, pallets down in Wheat Hills full of spare parts for the old system. Where all this stuff is going, we don't know. And they're putting this all in, and it never had to be done. Like everything on board the vessel, when she went in refit, was working. Everything working. No alarms, no nothing. Everything working. Now they got nothing, only trouble. And spending millions of dollars. And this stuff here, as far as I'm concerned, these parts should be gone to surplus equipment and sold at auction or that or whatever. You're talking about a lot of money. And apparently they're coming off the boat and going on just being sold. But anyway, the thing is that this is another near miss. I don't know how many times it's going to happen or whatever before finally somebody gets killed and something done. But this management there now, they're calling the shots. Now they're blaming this blackout on the crew. They don't know the boat was sailing across. It had nothing to do with the crews. The engines were running, and all of a sudden she blacked out. That's not a fault of the crews. She got a failure. They don't know what the failure was, and now they're trying to blame it on the crew. And if there's an incident that happens or somebody's hurt, it's the crews who are going to get in trouble, and not the people that are responsible for making these decisions in Confederation Building. The best decisions that they can make, the ADM sent out a letter saying that the crew are not allowed to wear shorts. With all the problems they got, Flanders down again today. Like, they're destroying the ferries with these systems. They're talking about the PCs bought these ferries, older lemons and that, whatever. They've got them now destroyed, that the ferries are practically worth nothing. I don't know if you'd sell them now with the work, what they've got done. They wouldn't be worth anything. There's nothing working. All the alarms are not working, all the protection systems. The emergency generator never started up when she blacked out. All very serious deficiencies. And now they're blaming it that the crew are not trained. The management are the ones who got this new modifications and everything done. The crews are only there. They got no say into nothing. But they're the ones going to be held responsible if something happens. Like, all this stuff is not right. And what's going on in this Marine Department is totally and utterly ridiculous. Fred Hutton was there, was all too glad to put out a statement stating that the bow thruster and everything, he took the parts out of that and put down the Flanders, how wonderful they were all doing and saving money, which is all lies and deception. The bow thruster was needed, and the money was wasted. They destroyed the bow thruster.
We've talked about this many times, Mike. I thought you wanted to talk about, an overall independent body to look at government procurement and tendered work in the broad strokes versus, because we've talked about the bow thruster issue countless times.
Yeah, I shouldn't have brought that up. But what I'm saying there now is that, like I said, this episode happened there now in the last couple of days. And Transport Canada are investigating that and whatever. But like I said, the procurement and everything for these parts and the sale and that and whatever, all these parts gone. All perfectly good parts taken out. Valuable parts. Where have they all gone? And, what's going on with it all? We need somebody there or something to oversee what's going on. The problem is that it's the top management who are making these decisions and nobody can get at them. They're at the top. And we got Minister Lovelace there now. And he was useless before. There's nobody can get a hold of him. We're talking to user committees, and they can't get a hold of him. He's gone somewhere or whatever, disappeared. And all of this is happening, and they're destroying the ferries with no tenders. They're paying out a contractor for 5 or 6 people where only 1 or 2 are required at $200 an hour when the good contractor knows what they're doing for $100 an hour for 1 or 2 men. The prices have gone through the roof. They're not getting second prices or whatever. They're not calling in contractors that they're supposed to be called in, that are on the operating list, that they can call. And they're just wasting millions and millions of our dollars to destroy the ferry system, destroy the reputation, and everything else. Like the purchasing, the whole works with there is basically negligent in all their handling of these ferries. And we're paying the price. The taxpayers are paying the price for it. And what is it all done for? Try to make the Liberal government look good. Oh, we're saving the money. Oh, the PC's made a big boo-boo. I don't agree with playing politics on this. Whatever the PC's done, the Liberals don't have to make it worse or try to spend millions of dollars for them to come out and say, oh, PC's blew all this money. We got to spend all this money because of what the PC's done. You know, it's just totally ridiculous of them playing politics and whatever that the people are suffering. I can tell you now, it's going to be a bad summer for the ferry users of this province.
The ferry issue is a head scratcher. Mike, anything else this morning before I take another call?
Well, I think they're destroying it on purpose and that try to get it privatized or to get the government out of it or whatever. But then the main parts of the government are going to stay there anyway, even if they do privatize it. But I think there's an underlying reason here of why this Liberal government are destroying the ferries, or whatever the reason is, up to them to come out and say and tell us the truth of what they're doing, rather than just barbarizing the people and, you know, hurtful and everything else. If you want people to move off the islands or do you want to privatize it, come out and say it and do it. Like, I got no ties with Bill Island or any of the islands or whatever. It doesn't matter to me if all the ferries are gone. I don't care. What I'm talking about is this total waste of money and destruction of public property by the administration of this Marine Department in Newfoundland.
Appreciate your time, Mike.
Got the worst reputation.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
No problem, Mike.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. You know, in the broader strokes about government procurement, I think there's a renewed or a heightened focus in domestic contracts being awarded. You know, we had a good conversation with a gentleman about the tech and innovation sector and how government procurement really needs a pretty sharp focus on investing in Canadian companies, awarding government contracts. There is a little variance available for provincial and federal governments to look at, you know, in this province, you know, local companies, and in the national scheme of things, domestically based companies. It's pretty important. But the subject line said independent body for government, independent oversight of government tendered work, which I think is an interesting concept. Who would that be, and what kind of teeth would they have, would be a question that I would ask right away. Let's see here. Let's get to a break. When we come back, let's talk about a stewardship agreement between the Southside Hills and Fort Amherst with the Deputy Mayor of the City of St. John, Sheila O'Leary. Then Bruce wants to talk about some fundraising efforts for a friend that needs a very serious procedure to take place. And then we're talking about fish. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 6. Say good morning to the Deputy Mayor of St. John's. That's Sheila O'Leary. Deputy Mayor O'Leary, you're on the air.
Thanks so much for taking my call. Good day, Patty, and your listeners. I'm here with a good news story today, a very, very good news story today. So I just wanted to let you know that we have the City of St. John's and the Stewardship Association of Municipalities have marked an expansion of our municipal habitat conservation agreement, which basically means that we have a commitment now to conserve the ecologically sensitive and significant areas of the top of the Southside Hills and a section of Cape Spear as well. So this is big news. This is a real conservation effort and a very long time effort, I will say. So I can give you a little history on that too.
Sure, I'll take the history, but you say significant environmental protections. I can't remember the exact phrase you used. What's significant about the region?
Well, this is all about habitat conservation. These are like areas that oftentimes include wetlands. They're habitats that basically enhance wildlife. It's not just it's for birds who are migrating. It's ecologically sensitive areas that deserve attention and protection. And the Stewardship Association of Municipalities, you know, when you go across the province, you'll see those big signs so stewardship agreement signs. This organization has been committing and working and partnering with towns and cities across the province since 1999. And basically, they're a dedicated group of people. It's a nonprofit organization that helps to conserve, restore, and enhance wildlife habitat. And it's not just for animals, it's also for the livers, the people, the visitors, everybody. It's something that benefits everybody for generations to come. And so, it's often focused on wetlands and coastal areas, those kind of things, but it's all about conservation. So that's what they do. And so we have partnered with them. Lundrigan's Marsh, for example. I do. That is our conservation area. We have a stewardship agreement, the City of St. John's, with SAM is what we call it, to conserve and protect that particular area. And Lundrigan's Marsh is a strange beast in lots of ways because it's kind of housed in the middle of a very industrial kind of area, but it has ecologically sensitive. It is an ecologically sensitive habitat, so it's really quite wonderful. So we already have an agreement with these folks. And now, after many, many years of lobbying and advocacy, we have celebrated yesterday. We were out at Cape Spear. There's a new sign that people will see on the side of the road as they're heading out to Cape Spear. And there certainly will be a new one erected at the base of Southside Hills as you just exit Shea Heights. And this is all about that celebration, that partnership to a commitment, basically, to be conservationists of these particular areas. So it's really decades long. It's been a tenacious effort. It began actually long before my time. There was many lobbyists, like you remember the late great engineer and visionary Tom Cairns, and the Sohilco group. They were trying for a long time to create a nature park on the top of Southside Hills, and that included people like Benny Malone, Diana Baird, Bill Stoyles, and Shani Duff. Lots of folks who were lobbying for a long time. Now, that didn't manifest, but when Tom Cairns was an octogenarian, he was 100 years old, and he came and met with me when I was first elected on council. And he handed over his files to me because he knew I was an environmental activist and that these things were really important to me. And now in my role as lead for sustainability at the City of St. John's, I am just ecstatic that this has finally come to fruition, a partnership between the Stewardship Association and the City of St. John's with the East Coast Trail, of course, as our partner and neighbor who actually flows through it. Will have a commitment and a community responsibility to conserve these areas. It's a legacy. It's protection of lands for generations to come, and it's for the wildlife. It's for the conservation of the area, but it's also for the residents and visitors. It truly is a fantastic story.
So includes what types of actions? Because conservation can come in many forms. It could be enhancement as much as conservation. Some people just think it's, basically you fence a place off, no one can access it, consequently we've conserved it. So what type of actions are involved in this agreement?
Oh, no, it's not cutting it off. It's basically enabling people to continue to enjoy it. Lots of people, as I'm sure you're aware, love to go up and hike along East Coast Trail and up in the area of the Southside Hills or Cape Spear. I mean, look at the visitors and the locals, of course, who avail of that. It's not about cutting it off.
No, I didn't say that, though. I said, when people hear conservation, they say, well, I can no longer tread on the flora and fauna, consequently we've conserved it. I was just asking for actions as to what would constitute conservation.
Absolutely. Well, just in a city like the City of St. John's, who is taking leadership in this particular situation, but as I mentioned, many other communities across the province have already engaged in this. It's an opportunity to protect it, to protect the area while we still continue to enjoy and use it. So you can go up there on the trails, you can continue to do it. But obviously, as a city, we have ongoing development issues and pressures that are continuing to happen. So that means that, for example, there are many layers to go through before we could even possibly consider something of any kind of development in those particular areas, because they are ecologically sensitive areas that we want to protect and we want to have for generations to come, as I mentioned. So it really is about ensuring that these areas are protected and able to be used by people, by hikers. There's lots of people who go up and swim in those areas just above Fort Amherst. It's not at Fort Amherst, by the way. It's the top of the Southside Hills.
Oh, I understand.
And of course a portion just before you get out to Cape Spear. They're really significant areas, and many, many, many years of lobbying and lots of people, in this mix, and many partnerships have finally brought this to fruition. So good news story for sure.
A couple of things. So you mentioned the Southside Hills and Tom Cairns. Tom Cairns also proposed putting a rink into the hill when they were deciding whether or not to build Mile 1. And then, of course, we're talking about the Upper Churchill. In 1967, CFLCO invited Tom Cairns to help design the underground portion of the 5,500 megawatt facility that is Churchill Falls. So a lot of things that he's worked on. Desalinization of salt water for fresh potable drinking water. I mean, he had an absolutely fascinating career.
He was a real visionary, and it certainly was probably too much for many to be able to handle. And you're right, he did have that proposal for the Rock Arena, what we now house as Mary Brown Center, to be in the hills, because there are models of it in the world, but of course that didn't happen. And again, it all predates my time. But part of that, one of the additional components of this was that with Sohilco Group, they wanted to conserve the top of the hilltop. And so, when I was on council and he saw me as somebody who was an environmental advocate, he knew that I would be interested in this, and he handed over his files before he passed away, God rest his soul. But he and many other people, not just him, but many other people had their hand in this in terms of conservation. And, look, this goes way back to the time that, before our wastewater treatment plant. I mean, there were people, from the Friends and Lovers of the Waterford River, Benny Malone and Bill Soils and Diana Baird and all these folks and stuff who worked very hard. They were the precursors of our our wastewater treatment plant, because, remember, we were just dumping it in the harbor. These are all really, really significant advancements in terms of our ecology, in terms of, human health and safety, in terms of our enjoyment of lifestyle, but also protection for nature, which, of course, we have a responsibility to conserve and to protect. Because if we don't protect these particular sensitive areas, well then, you know what, we're not going to have anything to protect us. I mean, these are really important things in this day of climate action, I
have a couple of quick questions. And another thing that Tom Cairns proposed, the Newfoundland Labrador Island Link. He was also behind that proposal all those years ago. Different topic. Okay. So I know this, we're talking about illegal exemptions and applications to Health Canada for things like safe consumption sites. But here we have one now that's popped up in the city, and it's in the downtown core. The pictures make it look like it's at the corner of Duckworth and Prescott. Harm reduction and safe consumption sites have been a controversial topic, not only for what they do, but for where they are. So we know the concept for the folks who have organized it is trying to meet the addicts where they are, which does include that area of town. So as a Deputy Mayor of the City of St. John's, any concerns with the location, given the fact that it will not only be the home of people living in the downtown, not only the home of people who are maybe suffering and struggling with addiction, but also will be part of the tourist landscape this summer. So same concerns were brought forward when the tents were in Bannerman Park. So do you have any comment on the location of this safe consumption site?
Well, the only thing I can comment on, because I was at the FCM conference just recently and just came back after 5 days of intensive lobbying the federal government to ensure a number of issues for municipalities, including safety, I might add. And hearing from our national leaders. So I came back and was facing eyes into the stewardship agreement. So I haven't been party to a lot of the nuances of what's happening right now, as you've indicated. But Patty, we know that this is an escalating issue. And after just even experiencing downtown Ottawa, I'm telling you, this is not just a localized situation. This is happening nationwide, and it really is a crisis situation. It's really becoming an epidemic. And it's only going to be, the solutions are going to be, it's a complex. And the only way that we're going to try to find any kind of solutions here is through partnerships. There's no quick answer. It's no, let's get rid of them, or it's no one-off. This whole binary conversation of yes or no or whatever, these addictions and the opioid crisis it's there. It's on our doorstep, and it's right across the country. So we have to partner together. So there's a number of different opportunities now, and I haven't been at that table. I haven't had a seat at that table, but there are many people from the city of St. John's who are meeting with the RNC, with the organizations that are, of course, helping people on the street level who are homeless or have addictions. And of course, End Homelessness St. John's is doing incredible work trying to help and support people who are homeless. But what's happening is we're seeing gravitation towards the city from other areas of the country, certainly rural areas, and now it's right on our doorstep. So we have to find a number of different ways to address it. In regards to that specific issue, I can't make any comment on that one because as I said, I was away and just dealing with this particular issue. But you will be hearing certainly much more about this in the coming days. And like I said, the only way is through partnerships about trying to address these issues. Right?
Yeah, I'm not wondering about your perspective on collaboration and the nuances of harm reduction. It's basically just a question about where it's located, because the vast majority of people that have responded to anything that I've said on the program, we get the back and forth that harm reduction doesn't work, harm reduction is enabling, two things which I disagree with. It's simply about location. Like, for instance, someone suggested if that was on the corner of Ricketts Road and St. Clair's Avenue, still meeting people where they are, still providing that type of care, which is, to try to lessen or reduce the risk of overdose and to use safe supply. They're not giving anyone any drugs. So I'm just wondering about location as a deputy mayor and how that dovetails with what is now tourism season.
Well, tourism season is secondary. Honestly, I mean, I'm all about the tourism and being an incredible ambassador. We need to sell our province. It's a beautiful, incredible place, and that is brutally important. But first and foremost, I am here to support vulnerable people, the people who don't have a voice in community, and to make sure that we are taking care of our own first. And that is definitely a priority for me as a leader, and for me as a resident. The tourism aspect, that will take care of itself. I can guarantee you there's going to be a lot of efforts here to ensure that when people come, they come and will be seeing a cleaner and safer city. But as I mentioned, Patty, there's no fast and quick answer to this. This is systemic. This is happening right across the country. So what we need to do right now is try to make sure that all the partners are together to try to address where this is all happening, how best we can serve the people who are in crisis, while we're trying to make sure that our liviers are safe as well. So it's a combination. It's a balancing act. It always will be. And we've been getting inundated from residents and concerned people about a number of rising issues that have been happening in and around the Military Road area because of the vulnerable population that are gravitating towards shelters there. And, that is happening. That's on the table, and people are addressing that right now. So no easy fix. There's no doubt about it. But we do have to work together on this problem.
I'm by no means suggesting we don't work on it. In fact, I talk about it every single day on this program and in my social world as well. It's just concerns being brought to me. So that's what I try to do is when people come to me asking questions that I can't answer because I have no authority, then I ask them to people who do. And look, the issue is not about whether or not people need help, because they quite obviously do. The issues that we see on the streets, the story we hear, are getting more severe and more frequent. So on that, we agree. I'm off to the break. Deputy Mayor O'Leary, I appreciate your time.
Well, thanks so much for the opportunity to come to you with this celebratory opportunity. And again, it's always a balancing act between the problems and the celebrations that, the progress that we're making. So thank you, Patty, for providing this forum for people.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye. All right, so let's take a break. I'm not sure who's next, but we'll figure it out during these commercials. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 1. Danny, you're on the air.
Hello, Patty.
Hello there.
I was thinking about the parking meters down in the Church Square.
Yep.
You got no parking down there, only a bit of free parking. but university students are taking it out.
I'm sure there are some university students that park in Churchill Square. So, I don't. So you think that that's a problem? They shouldn't be allowed, or what?
I don't know. I don't know how to put it together. But what do you think of the right road south and the modules coming from the Texas?
I'm sorry, can you say
that?
that?
You think we should have built the modules in Bull Arm?
Well, I mean, I think we should get as much work as possible out in Bull Arm. Now, there's some stuff that cannot be done there, just given size and capacity, like all of the entirety of the dry dock work done on, for instance, the Sea Rows. And the modules that I think you're talking about are for the West White Rose expansion. They were done down in Texas.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
But we lost a lot of work with our resources, with the Hibernia and the Huron.
We did a lot of Hebron work here.
Not the living quarters.
No, not everything, but we did a lot of Hebron work right here. Yep.
Yeah. But what are you going to do with the turnover? That's falling apart.
It certainly is showing its age, apparently, yes.
Yeah. Is there any way to build a platform for that?
I really don't know, to be honest, Danny. I don't have the expertise in the field to give you any sort of reasonable answer on that one.
Is there oil out there to build it, to develop it?
Well, I guess that would be a cost-benefit analysis. I don't know how long. I think, if I remember correctly, they're talking about another 10, 15 years of production in that field. So would that constitute the business model to spend hundreds of millions of dollars? I really don't know, but we're in. We've invested heavily in that particular oil field, so I can't answer your question, but I don't know how much life is left to, see that there will indeed be tons of money spent on the platform. I genuinely do not know.
Platform is not cheap to make.
No, of course it's not. No.
But I don't know. And then the Sea Road, the other development we got. Are they going to build a platform there, or?
I'm not sure what development. I really don't know what development you're talking about, Danny. Are you talking about something that's not producing at this time? Like, you mean out in Beta Nord, or are you talking about something else?
Yeah, Beta Nord.
Okay, Beta Nord. They're talking.
What's going to happen there?
Well, we don't know. They're talking about an FPSO to be, instead of like a gravity-based structure, they're talking about exactly what we were just talking about here. So the floating production and storage facility. So that looks like what they're going to use. And it might be one, it might even be two. So that's currently what's being discussed out of Beta Nord.
Is it like in deep water?
It's in extremely deep water. It would be the deepest wells that we've ever drilled, explored, and or potentially ever produced. Yep, deep water.
Just like White Rose South, hey? Just like White Rose South, right?
Beta Nord?
Yeah.
No, it's out in the Flemish Pass. It's almost 1,200 meters deep, if I remember the numbers correctly. Danny, I appreciate your time. I've got to get a break for the news, but hopefully have a great day.
You too. You have a good one, Patty.
Thanks very much.
Take care.
You too. Bye-bye. All right, let's take a break for the news right on time. Don't go away.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 3. Good morning, Bruce. You're on the air.
Hey, Patty, how are you this morning?
Excellent today. Thank you. How about you?
Oh, not too bad. Beautiful day out there.
'Tis that.
Yeah, Patty, thanks for taking my call. And I just wanted to call in to put out a plug for a GoFundMe page that we have created for one of my good friends, Chad Seward. Do you mind if I just read a brief description of what the GoFundMe is?
Yeah, go right ahead.
So Chad is 38 years old. He is in a fight for his life. He's been diagnosed with a severe case of COPD caused by a rare genetic condition that damages both the lungs and the liver. Chad's lung function has now plummeted to 19%. He is in need of a double lung transplant, and that's what he needs going forward. This life-saving surgery means Chad must relocate to Toronto for several months, leaving behind his beloved son Jack and the life he's worked so hard to build. Unable to work due to his health, Chaddy is facing mounting medical, home, childcare, and living expenses. Despite his own struggles, he's always been the first to lend a helping hand. Now it's our turn to help. Chaddy's from Pasadena, Newfoundland, Labrador. And Patty, we just started this GoFundMe page about 36 hours ago, and we're over $11,000 as of now, which is terrific. So I want to give a big shout out to all of those people who donated to this cause.
When is he scheduled to have the transplant?
So there is no real schedule. He is on a list to go up to Toronto. So we're hoping sooner. It needs to be sooner rather than later. He needs to go to Toronto and then wait for a donor.
And you have to be ready to go at a moment's notice. So, yeah, we're working with another couple of people who are in the queue and on a wait list for organ transplant, and in this case, they're kidney. But, yeah, it's a hard way to live. Just a side note for me. You know, when we talk about people who are waiting for transplants, whether it be organs or tissue, there are so many Canadians who would be more than willing to donate either or, but they haven't gone the next steps. And in this province, you have to go through MCP. It's not a matter of signing a driver's license or anything like that anymore. It's MCP, conversations with your family so they know your intentions, and more Canadians would indeed be signed up to be donors into the future. In Ontario, there was an exercise they undertook that said it was part of your taxes. Just like you check a box if you want your GST refund, there was a box you could check that if you wanted to be an organ tissue donor. Right off the bat, there was 2 million additional donors registered in Ontario because of tax season. So I know that's not to do with your friend, and I didn't mean to derail it, but you know, we could see a reduction in waitlist times if we did indeed have more Canadians who are willing to do exactly that.
Absolutely.
Give us the details where to find the page if folks are so inclined to make a donation.
Yep, so you can just Google GoFundMe Chad Seward, and it will pop right up. It'll be the first one there.
And is Seward just S-E-W-A-R-D?
S-E-A-W-A-R-D.
Okay, I'm glad I asked. Bruce, I appreciate your time with Sober Chat. Is really appreciative of your efforts.
Yep, no, thank you, Patty. It's thank you for having me on so I could share this.
Happy to do it, and good luck. Keep me in the loop.
Will do.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There you go. That organ donation, you know, at one point I used to talk about, you know, it wouldn't be a matter of opting in. It would be a matter of opting out, that automatically everyone becomes an organ donor. And people who know much more about it than I do say that's conceptually a smart thing to think about and talk about, but realistically speaking, especially in this province, the opportunity for the type of harvesting that would have to be required and the resources to do that and what that actually looks like, can it be pulled off? Not with the current structure in this province, but they do talk about that in other provinces in the country. But let's keep going. Line number 4. Good morning, Betty Fitzgerald. You're on the air.
Hi, Patty. How are you?
Great today. How about you?
I haven't chatted with you for quite some time.
It's been a long time, probably since you were the mayor.
That's right, Patty. I try to keep out of all of this stuff because I gave up being the mayor and I left it to other people to take care of. But I had a call from CBC asking me to do an interview on our historic train station and train there in Bonavista a couple of days ago. So I gave them an interview, only to get a call back yesterday saying that they could not air my interview because it was too controversial. And I can't understand that. I just answered their questions. And what's changed with CBC, I'd like to know.
I don't know.
Hillary.
I can't speak to CBC, but what exactly is the controversy regarding the Bonavista train station?
Well, I asked Hillary if the town had addressed my questions, and she said the water tower right now was the priority for the town of Bonavista. Then I pointed out that funding would come from infrastructure for a water tower, but the train station and the train, that would come from another source of funding. And I said, I don't know why it was controversial, because I'm trying to explain where this stuff comes from. 1 minute, Patty. Someone at my door. God.
Good timing. Yeah, I mean, while Betty's answering the door, you know.
Thank you.
Are you back?
Thank you. Bye. There's somebody claiming something for a person in need, Patty. I'm sorry about
no
that.
problem, Betty.
Interrupted.
So let's pick up where we left off. So where's the controversy and what are we talking about?
Well, when I give the interview, I talked about the train station and the train, because the 50 Plus Club, the TK 50 Plus Club, had great plans for that. They were starting to redo that train station. They had the outer floor all done. They had over $70,000 come to do the other part of the floor, like the kitchen and that area. But we found out that where the previous chair was sick and had cancer, he forgot to contact the railway who owned it, that building and the train. So I gave a call to those people and told them that I was now the chair and I wanted to see what we had to do. They informed me that was passed back to Crown Lands. So then I called Crown Lands, and they said, well, they did have the train station and the train converted back to them, and it would have to be applied for. So after over 30 years using that building, the 50 Plus Club decided they would partner with the Sea and Sky Committee, the people that was getting the funding to help get the train and the train station done, to Crown Land. So we delivered a letter asking to have it passed over to the 50 Plus Club. We waited quite a while, Patty, and never heard nothing back. So I made a call and was told that there was 2 other people applied besides us, and they had to review it. So the 2 people was David Bartlett that had a business next door, and the town of Bonavista. Well, after so long waiting again, I called back again. I was told it was passed over to the town of Bonavista. And so we knew then that the 50 Plus Club would not own it, would not be using that anymore, and we had to send the money back. So then I wanted to know a few questions, but I didn't get the answers. So when I got the call from CBC, I decided to ask those questions. I got some of the answers, but not all of them, Patty. CBC, when Hillary called me back yesterday, she told me that what I said was too controversial for her to put to air, but I can't see what it was. It's only questions. I asked at that time what the town was going to do with this building. Were they going to restore it? And what about the train that's being vandalized on a regular basis? What was going to happen? Well, it looks like the train is not going to be no longer there, Patty, and that's very sad to me, because at the time when we were there, that could have been salvaged.
So is it still salvageable, though, Betty? Like, I mean, the last I heard, the amount of money required to bring that back to some sort of usable state was extraordinarily expensive.
I know, Patty, and I'm not sure about that, but I also would like to know about the building. So I asked it questions, and I didn't get all the answers I was asking, because I asked Hillary if she asked the town who was going to be able to take care of that building now. And she said, well, she was told the town and the Historic Townscape Foundation would be doing it. Then I asked her the question, did you get an answer for this question? Where is that going to be passed? Who's going to have it after it's done? And is it going to be contracted out? Because I want to see it done in the right format, Patty, because that's very important to our history here in Bonavista. And being the past mayor, I worked hard for this town. And I got to ask questions, and I asked those questions, and she said she got no answer on that. None whatsoever. Who's is it going to be contracted out, and who's going to get it once the building is done? We don't want to go to a private indemnity that may do nothing with it, turn it into commercial or something. We want to see it as an historic site. So, you can ask questions as a taxpayer, Patty. I've never seen anybody who couldn't ask questions.
No, of course not.
But my questions was not answered, and I'd like to know why they're not answered. Why can't our members of our council tell us what is it going to be contracted out, and who's going to get it once it's done? Are they going to maintain it? Are they giving it to the Historic Foundation? Or who are they giving it to? When you're paying your taxes, you should be able to ask the question.
I can try to get some answers.
I would appreciate that, Patty, because I'm not getting answers, and CBC never got the answers, and then they come back and said they couldn't hear my interview. I have never heard the likes of my life. I never said nothing bad about nobody. I don't do that, Patty. You know me.
Yeah, I got no problem. I can reach out to the mayor myself right away.
I would like that, Patty, because you're a good person, and I dealt with you when I was mayor, and you were a wonderful person, Patty, and I know you will find those answers for me. I appreciate that. Yeah,
Mayor Norman's generally been pretty gracious with his time on this program, so I'll send him a note today and see if we can't get him on ASAP.
I would love for you to let me know, Patty, what is being said, because that's all I was told by CBC, that they didn't answer the question.
Well, let's see what I can do.
I would love that, Betty. You have a beautiful day. No?
Same to you, Betty. All the best.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. All right, break time. When we come back, we'll talk about the waterfur, recreational food fishery, whatever you want to talk about. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 6. Kelly, you're on the air.
Hi, Patty. How are you?
Doing well. How about you?
I'm doing wonderful. Love your show. Listen every morning. I think you're doing awesome. I just have a question. I'm just wondering, do you know what happened to the rest of the patients from the waterford? Because it was my understanding that they only took 80 of them and put them in the new facility. And I'm just wondering what happened to the rest of them. Were they just put out into society on their own, or what happened?
I don't know. That's an excellent question. Now, I was told that leading into the eventual patient transfer into the new facility, they were doing some discharges as opposed to everybody automatically being brought to the new facility. Based on what criteria? I really don't know. What becomes difficult for us trying to get answers to that is they just very quickly fall behind privacy. All right? So what I try to tell them is just round numbers has nothing to do with privacy. I don't need people's names. I don't need to know what their diagnosis is. I don't need to know where they live. I just need to know if there's 120 beds or 140 beds, whatever the number is, how many patients were in the Waterford, how many got transferred. I have no idea what the answer is to your question, but I will do everything I can to figure that out, because that's a very good one. It's the first I heard of it, to be honest with you, Kelly, that only 80 patients were transferred.
That was the rumor when they were building the new facility, and like I said, it's just a rumor that they were only taking 80 patients, and some of the patients at the Waterford are like the elderly, like they've been there all their lives, and they don't have family, so they were going to be put into like a long-term care facility, and the rest were going to be just put in society. And I'm asking this question because on Facebook I see a lot of elderly and I guess in skeets in the streets or whatever, and you know what I mean? Some of these people are not skeets in the streets. These are elderly people, and I'm just wondering, did they, at one point, were they at the Waterford, and now they're just put, I don't know, into a boarding home, and who's supervising them? Obviously, they were at the Waterford for a reason, so just to put them out into society on their own? You know what I mean? Like what, you know, like is there a social worker? Is there somebody who oversees these people?
You would hope so. And I can't speak to it definitively because, and I'm thinking about the number of beds in the new facility. It's 102, I think, and plus a new hostel which has 60 beds, I'm pretty sure. So I can try to find out as best possible. You can only hope that folks who had reason to be admitted to the Waterford, and some of them for the long term, all of a sudden just didn't find themselves in a bed-sitting room or something or other, which is 100% not conducive to the treatment that they were getting at the mental health hospital. So, good question. Don't know. And that's the first time I heard 80, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that was the rumor. Like I said, it was just a rumor when they were first building it. And so, like I said, like seeing everything on Facebook, and I was like, oh my God, like, are these people at one point, did they live at the Waterford? And now they're just, you know what I mean, on their own? Right? It's pretty sad, right?
Of course it is.
I don't know. Right? So I was just wondering, maybe I figured you would have heard, or you would have had the answer, or...
Well, I mean, I did hear, some of the rumbles going into the patient transfer, and I do know that there were some discharges being considered. And again, the criteria, I have no earthly idea. No one might ever going to be able to figure that out, because they just simply will not tell you. You couldn't pry that information out of them. They will, hide behind, and not hide behind, they'll claim privacy concerns, which I understand. But your base question of numbers is something that they should be able to answer very quickly. The folks that were inviting me over for a tour, who are working for NL Health Services, and specifically for that new facility, I have their email address right in front of me, so I'm going to zip them off a note and ask them about the whole thing. How the transfer went, was every patient that was at the Waterford now in the new facility, and all of the not privacy-related questions that I can think of, and I'll try to craft that email before the end of the show.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for taking my call.
I appreciate you doing it, Kelly.
Okay, have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That's a good question. So I guess then it goes back down the road of staffing. Now, there were fewer beds in the new facility than were in the Waterford. Whether or not every bed was occupied at the Waterford, I don't know. There were certainly many times over the course of the recent decades that was absolutely the case. But did we have the staff to see every single patient transferred? That's an answer that we'll try to get to its fit. Let's go to line 2. Barry, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. Thanks for taking my call.
No problem.
Very quickly, down here on Torbay Road, outside the Minister's office, CFO Minister Thompson's office, about the food fishery, as you know. Patty, it's not about fish anymore. It's about people being ruled. The government won't even meet with us. Patty, I use the analogy of the highway being repaired. The speed limit is on Trans-Canada 100 miles per hour, for example, 100 kilometers per hour, for example, and the construction starts, the speed limit goes on to 30 or 50. After the highway is repaired, the speed limit goes back up. So why can't the food fishery go back to the way it was? It's ridiculous, and politicians won't even meet with us. I send out kudos to MHA Paul Lane, MHA Craig Party, who contacted me with positive results, and they look forward to meeting with us. On another note, Patty, I'm with the Life Saving Society and all the work I've done over the years with life jackets and everything else. This Saturday coming, we have our AGM, and I'll be stepping down and retiring after 27 years with the Life Saving Society, Patty.
Well, bravo for putting in that amount of time on that front. And I can't tell you how many times we've talked about, even if we're just talking about the very fundamental issue of personal flotation devices, life jackets, and the absolutely bonkers silly rules that are in place. There has to be a life jacket provided to everyone in the watercraft, but you don't have to wear it. You can use it as a cushion. It just doesn't make any sense.
Indeed so, Patty. And I have hope, Patty, because the Department of Transport or Coast Guard has put out a national survey there earlier the year or late last year about that, asking general public what they think about the people wearing life jackets in watercraft that are less than 6 meters or less, which are where most of the accidents happen. And hopefully a decision will be forthcoming, Patty, that you will have to wear the life jacket. And, we make our kids wear it, and yet we're not setting the example by wearing it ourselves. And there's nothing more powerful, Patty, as you know, than little Joe or Josephine saying, Mom, Dad, you make me wear the life jacket, why aren't you? And the life jacket, Patty, should be treated with the same attitude as the helmets on ATVs, skidoos, and indeed with your seatbelt in your car, in your vehicle, and your helmet on the motorcycle.
Yeah, why not? It makes all the sense in the world. So you're down in front of Minister Joanne Thompson's office here this morning, and like we say repeatedly, even if you're told that nothing's going to change, 39 days, we'll announce it a week short of Canada Day, is certainly better than no commentary, no answers, no face-to-face, period. So, yeah.
Yeah, Patty, I got to say, I'm not looking for a pat on the back, but I am, Patty, a fighting Newfoundlander, and I'm fighting for the rights of everybody here. Nobody's asked me to do it. I'm taking it up on myself, of course. I'm not speaking for anybody in particular. I'm just speaking for myself and what I'm trying to do, but I receive a lot of support, Patty.
I'm sure you do, Barry, and I appreciate your time this morning. Thanks a lot.
As always, Patty, it's been a pleasure.
Mine. Take care, Barry. Good luck.
All the best.
All right, you too. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going out to Bay Vert. Say good morning to Lloyd Hayden with the Bay Vert Chamber of Commerce, talking about the mining conference, and then plenty of time left for you. Don't go away.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 1. Good morning, Lloyd Hayden. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty.
Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate all the good things that you do and bring out to the people in Newfoundland and Labrador that sometimes we wouldn't know out in our neck of the woods. That's what's happening if we weren't listening to your show and listening to the people that call in. We appreciate them.
Thanks a lot, Lloyd.
I'm just calling today. We're into the spring of the year again in the Bay Vert Chamber of Commerce. We've been around for around 50 years. And we got our 36th annual mining conference coming up again this year. I've been involved since 2003, and we're running great guns on that. There's a lot happening on the Bay Vert Peninsula. A lot of people don't know what's happening on the peninsula because we don't call you enough and let you know and let the people know. But we got our 36th annual chamber and mining conference. And we just want to let everybody know that it's there. We do, a lot of people don't know or don't understand what we're doing here, but we do have a mining conference, a full show. We get generally between 170 and 200 people attending, small but mighty. Our theme this year is 2025, Building Together, because on the peninsula now, Firefly Mines, Mining and Minerals, they're ramping up the old Ramader mine site. It looks like it's a big growth. They're finding some really good finds there underground. They've got a couple of 3 drills underground. They're drilling on top, doing all the government regulatory things they need to do to build a new mill. We got another mine, and we got Shoreline Aggregates who are building a new dock down there. They're shipping aggregates down south. But we need to bring the people into the peninsula, the suppliers and developers, government people, to let them know that is really happening on the peninsula. And that's what happens at this mining conference. And like I said, it's a 3-day event, Thursday, June 13th. June 18th, 19th, and 20th. And we have about 11 or 12 speakers. We have some panel discussions. And a lot of things and a lot of deals have gone down on the back patios and over dinner there that in the past have really resonated on the Bay Vert Peninsula. So that's I just want to give that spiel today, and that we have a task force of the mines. We got 5 mines in the area and support big companies and the town of Bay Vert. We created that task force last year. We do have a consultant hired through some funding from the COA and the government and ourselves and all the other for the businesses and the mines. And we're looking at, with that consultant, we're going to do a presentation at the mining conference on what they're finding so far. And what we're trying to do is ascertain the inventory and the housing, what we need in housing, daycare, what's needed to support the increase of the the mines in the Bay Vert Peninsula. We're looking at 500 to 700 new employees on the Bay Vert Peninsula in the next 3 to 6 years. And if we don't get on the bandwagon now and do something with that and showcase what we got and what we need, then we're not going to be ready. And there's going to be a lot of people scrabbling to try to pull it together, and that's why we are here as a chamber. We are as a creating this mining conference and with this task force as well.
I'm really glad that you brought that up, because I just scribbled down housing, because the same conversation we have in Labrador, for instance. Yes, we can have the mineral finds. Yes, we can raise the capital to get the mines off the ground or to expand a mine. But unless we're going to have fly-in, fly-out camps, which is not ideal, then we don't maximize the opportunities here. So I'm glad you brought that up, and I wonder where all this responsibility lies. Certainly with members of the Chamber of Commerce and local business and the provincial government, but the companies sometimes get left out of that conversation when I think they belong in the square middle of the conversation. They also have a responsibility here to understand the opportunity, to understand how many people they'll need working there and how they're going to house them, how they're going to broach this before we actually, produce the first ounce of gold or nickel or whatever the case may be. So what role do you think the companies play here?
Well, right now they're at the table with the task force. They've helped. All 5 companies have helped fund this. this task force, we're going to go to try to ascertain what we need in the inventory on the Baber Peninsula and what the outcomes are going to be. And hopefully out of that. And they're at the table with us very much so, and they're at the table with the government. And right now, Firefly is building a 300-man camp in Baber. So they're preparing for the fly in and fly out, or the drive in and drive out in Newfoundlanders as well. And so they're preparing for that. We as a chamber, this is one thing we got on the go. We're also doing a new project under Point Line workforce that we're going to ramp up in the early summer. We're going to look at a workforce too, I'm also president of the Newfoundland Labrador Federation of Co-ops, and we can talk about that on another day. And we got a housing co-ops, and 2 years ago, the federal government announced a $1.3 billion monies for co-op housing. We can do that. That is if people would get their heads around that, and that is a very significant find for Newfoundland if we can do it to get our heads around co-op housing, because it's happening. There are 21 co-op housing co-ops in Newfoundland, Labrador, under Channel in St. John's, and they're building a new Channel is building a new co-op housing. I think there's 300 units being built in St. John's. So we can do the co-op housing piece as well, and under daycare as well, under co-op. That's another venue, but I think you're right. The companies need to be at the table, and in our case in Baybert, all the companies are at the table right now, trying to get this infrastructure in place, trying to find out what we got, what we haven't got, what we need, and where we're going with it. And this is why the mining conference is so important, because we got to bring our suppliers in, we got to bring our supporters in, we got to bring our finance people at the table, and the mining company and government. We're open to have the Premier down speaking to us. Minister Crocker is coming down for a round table with us as well on Thursday. So we're trying to tell them what we're doing and what we got. We're not beating them up on, you haven't done this or you haven't done that. The roads are no good. What we want to do is bring them at the table, tell them what we're doing, what we got, and this is where we're heading, and this is who's at the table with us. So we need you at the table with us to make those decisions together, not we blaming you or blaming government.
And there's other there's other economic opportunities that come with mines that open and mining expansion. So there's a lot to this. And I know you don't want to necessarily talk a whole lot about co-op housing now, but you mentioned that federal pot of money. My understanding is that's the first time in history where the federal government had funded co-op housing specifically. So that's pretty exciting. The lady's name escapes me at the moment. We've had her on. She's in charge of, or she's at the lead of co-op housing, or the Cooperative Federation, I think it might be called. And we talked a little bit about how, pardon me, what's her name? Rosalind, exactly. So when we had that conversation, it was remarkable how many people who actually live in co-op housing immediately sent me an email saying it's the best decision they ever made. So it can be done, it's effective, it's cost effective, and you have stake in it. So there's a lot to the co-op housing conversation that really needs to be expanded, because it's a niche. People just, unless you've been exposed to it, unless you know someone in it, you probably never have considered it. You think about co-ops regarding the Labrador Shrimp Company and the Fogo Island Cooperative. It can be housing, and it really should be.
Well, I agree with you, and I think this is another conversation for another day, Patty.
Fair enough.
I can, myself and Ross can get on it, or we can, because I'm in charge of, I'm president of the federation as well. So, and I also manage a grocery store, the Baber Consumers Cooperative as well. We got 30 employees. We're looking at building a new store, and because of what's coming, and we, for every miner, there's 2 other employees that's needed in the community. So we got to look at that side of it too, right?
Yep.
So. But this is where, we want to go back to the mining conference, because it's really important. It's only in 2 weeks' time, and I just want to get it out there and say, if anybody wants to come, where our numbers are starting to climb up now, and I just want to showcase. And the problem is we don't talk about Baybert enough. We don't talk about where we live enough. I don't think the Newfoundlanders pat yourself on the back enough anyway. And we need to do that. And this mining conference is going to help showcase that. And with our task force, with the pipeline management and workforce management coming down the line later in the summer, and the chamber just took over the tourism associations as well, and the Miners Museum, and we're trying to drive that. But the mining conference to us is very important. It drives members. It drives the economy a little. It drives people to understand what's happening on the peninsula, and that's why it's important that people attend and people know what we're doing and what we got. And that's why I called you today, of course, right?
And I'm glad you did. Do me a favor. When we get up against it, some of the more interesting speakers, I will say, Bay or anyone else representing the industry who's going to be at the Bay Vert Chamber Conference, please connect them with the show, because you're right. We probably don't talk about the good stuff that happens as much as we do about the bad stuff, which is somewhat nature of the beast. But if you can help set me up with some of those speakers, I'd be more than happy to have them on.
Yeah, we will. We're pulling it all together now.
Yep.
Actually, I'm in Halifax to another conference now here, right? I'm calling from Halifax. But we will, when I get back home, and I'll have some of the, because they're pulling them all together now and trying to line them all up in sequence and things like that. I certainly will, and I can certainly have some of the players in Bay Vert in the mining industry, suggest that they call you as well and give you updates on what they're doing, because Firefly is doing big stuff here, and they're looking at, like I said, 500-600 people in the next 3 to 5 years. Well, they're building a 300-man camp. What can I say?
It's not insignificant, to say the least. Lloyd, good to have you on the show. Enjoy the conference in Halifax. Stay in touch.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it very much, Patty.
My pleasure. All the best.
Take care.
You too. Bye-bye. Press the wrong button, man. How long have I been doing this show? All right, let's take a break. When we come back, Donna, you're next to talk about a misdiagnosis, and then we're going to promote a yummy lobster dinner. Why not? Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number 4. Donna, you're on the air.
Yes, Patty. Thank you for taking my call. I tried yesterday, but you ran out of time.
Okay.
I'd like to send condolences to the person that lost his mom from Buren. But I was just wondering if you remember me last year stating that my sister went to Buren and she was diagnosed with a wart on her tongue. And the time that she got to the ENT in March, it was cancer. But anyway, she lost her battle. She went through a horrific year, and she lost her battle in January. So just wondering, if she wasn't diagnosed with a wart, which was not a wart, would the outcome be different? You just got to wonder about those things, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, your mind races to a million different directions when something like this happens. So I'm really sorry for your loss, number one, Donna.
Yeah.
So after the fact, and, thinking or stating that it was a misdiagnosis that, was part of, obviously, your sister's death, did you go to the College of Physicians and Surgeons? Do you...
Well, her family got all the information, like her daughter's net, right? So they should. As far as I'm concerned, I didn't think it was my place to really go there, but I think they should, because for this doctor to look on her tongue and say a wart, and 3 months later was stage 4A cancer. What was he looking at? And then your mind just goes out of control. Just wondering, 34 treatments in St. John's in the summer, and so it's such a hot summer, and nothing mattered anyway. Nothing. So by Christmas and November, she took a turn for the worse, and January 5th, she lost her battle.
It's terrible news. So, I mean, healthcare is delivered by human beings, and we can anticipate there will be some mistakes.
Yes.
But when it comes to severe misdiagnosis that ultimately leads to someone's death, it's bigger than that. And so, I don't know, and I won't pry into what you are willing to speak to or not, but, like that story yesterday, he's going to take next steps and see what or should or could be done here. I mean, the healthcare conversation is never ending. And I've got a half dozen people in my email talking about what's happened at the emergency room in Clarenville. So I'm chasing 1,000 different healthcare stories.
Yes, yeah. Like my sister is 58 years old and still young. But anyway, I guess we got to be left with the grief.
That's a mouthful, after everything that happened and just left with the grief. That's an unbelievably sad state of affairs.
Yeah, I know. Just, for when I listened to the guy about his mom, and same thing, right? It just, whacked me right in the stomach, saying, well, she went there too and got the wrong diagnosed. Anyway, Patty, thank you for listening to me, and all the viewers out there. I really love your show.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate your time this morning, Donna. Once again, I'm sorry for your loss.
Yes, thank you, Patty.
You're welcome.
Okay,
bye-bye. Yeah, let's keep going here. Line number 2, Mike, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you today?
I'm doing okay, thank you. How about you?
I'm well, but I'll add my condolences to yours, too. What a hard story to listen to, and gee whiz, I sure hope we can find a way to go forward that's, provides comfort to people more than just its sense of loss and wonder.
100%.
Sorry, buddy. On a happier note, I'm calling on behalf of St. Andrew's Church, where our annual fundraiser is going quite well, and I'd like to thank everybody who has participated so far. What we're about as a church certainly is to raise funds for our mission, and what this particular fundraiser is, and I think we're at 49 years. So next year, hopefully, we'll strike 50 with it. But it's a lobster takeout that we do. A couple of lobsters cooked and cracked, and potato salad, tossed salad, coleslaw, some carrot cake, and all the fixings in a box to be picked up down at St. Andrew's Church. And we've had great success so far this year, but there are still a few meals available for next Thursday to be picked up. And if I could leave you the number and the email address for the church, and hopefully we'll have those last few out the road, too, to help us with our mission.
You sure can. Go right ahead.
Thank you. It's St. Andrew's Church, and it's for the lobster takeout. And the number that can be used to place an order is 709-726-5385. And it also can be done online. St. Andrews, all one word and lowercase, standrews@bellalliant.com. So again, that's for our lobster takeout fundraiser, and the meals that are available still would be for pickup next Thursday at St. Andrew's Church later in the afternoon, and be used for family celebrations and other great, memories made here this summer.
I appreciate your time with this morning, Mike, and good luck. Hopefully it's a roaring success.
Thank you very much, Patty, and thank you so much for what you and VOCM do as well. You're a blessing in our community, sir.
I appreciate that very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So just about out of time. So, I see a couple of stories. One, there's a motorcyclist at 68 years of age, struck an SUV down in Marystown, and he succumbed to his injuries. And then it's the 7-year-old boy struck by an SUV in the city of St. John's. The RNC have now confirmed that the boy has indeed died. He's succumbed to his injuries yesterday. It's an unimaginable tragedy, regardless of age, but I think I'm not alone in thinking that when it's a child, it has that additional layer of sadness community-wide. I don't know the circumstances involving what happened there, nor do I know the circumstances between the motorcyclist and the SUV. But it's just that and there was a major collision apparently between Benton and Gander last evening as well. The highway has reopened, even though that's sort of the secondary story. I'm going to head out on the roadway here now this afternoon, like many of you will as well. Some of you might be listening to the program from your vehicle as we speak. The roadways are busier with the warmer temperatures. Come more and more people out there, especially pedestrians and joggers and skateboarders and people on their scooters and the like, and people on their motorcycle. So it's just that one more, you get in your car, you put on your seatbelt. Not only do you want to make sure you get where you're going safely, but it's that just little added heightened awareness, given just how busy it is out there in the summer months with all the aforementioned users of the sidewalks and the roadway. So let's see if we can't all be a little bit more mindful of that into the rest of the summer. All right, let's check in on the Twitter box one more time. We're VOCM Open Line. You know what to do. You can follow us there. You can pass along your comments, suggestions to our email address, which is openline@vocm.com. Good show today. Big thanks to all hands, all the listeners, callers, emailers, tweeters. You're all right. We will indeed pick up this conversation again tomorrow morning, right here on VOCM and Big Land FM's Open Line. On behalf of the producer, David Williams, I'm your host, Paddy Daly. Have yourself a safe, fun, happy day. We'll talk in the morning. Bye-bye.